Hello, I'm Catalina Gillies, and welcome to this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. You could call it the undercard fight in the lead up to Thursday's federal leaders debate, as all 5 of the candidates vying to represent the Kenora riding faced off at the only in-person event in the region. Adam Riley was there, and he has the details.
It was a fairly sized and socially distanced crowd this week at the Seven Generations Educational Institute, who gathered to see and hear what Conservative incumbent Eric Melillo, Liberal David Bruno, New Democrat Janine Seymour, the Green Party's Remy Rowe, and the PPC's Craig Martin had to say as they squared off on the issues that mattered to the region. Hosted by the Kenora District Chamber of Commerce, pre-selected topics by the Chamber included climate change.
The Liberal government will also invest $8 billion to accelerate the green jobs and green industry strategies to continue investing in funds so that we get to reduce our footprint, our carbon footprint. We will develop a tax investment credit up to 30% for a range of clean technologies, including low carbon technologies with input from external experts.
Anything you can do with fossil fuels and anything you can do right now can be done with alternative energies. A good example, in Sweden, they're making steel that has no coal and no coke. If they can do it there, we can do it here. We just need to tap into it. We need to fund it properly.
The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People.
We will work to abolish the UNDRIP legislation. And we'll work to abolish the Indian Act. We'll work with First Nations leaders to provide a Fair Governance Act, which they will work with providing fair governance to all nations across the country.
And local housing and homelessness.
If we have more federal land for residential development, and that would be aiming to release 15% of federal real estate for federal development, because when we look at the issues of affordable housing across our region, it's really all about supply. There's not enough supply keeping up with the demand, and that's exactly what our party will address.
However, time was also given for residents to ask the candidates where they stood on other issues, including the overrepresentation of racialized individuals in jails.
Judicially, there's minimum sentences that judges must impose, and that's mandated. And that binds the judge from a creative solution that might help somebody instead of jail them. If judges can't do their job, where do we find ourselves? That's what we've tasked them to do. So let's support our judges who are trying their best under restrictive legislation.
Advanced polls across the district begin this weekend, and Election Day is set for September 20th. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Meanwhile, a candidate in the Kenora riding is speaking out following an incident where she says she was groped while campaigning in the region. In a tweet posted last weekend, NDP candidate Janine Seymour states she was shaken by the incident. Seymour is speaking out after seeing a similar tweet from a female candidate in Kitchener about unwanted sexual advances and realizing she isn't alone in these types of experiences. She hopes this will make others aware of this issue and let other candidates and their teams know of some of the hazards that are appearing this election cycle.
We don't want anybody to be unsafe, anybody on our team, anybody on another team, any other candidates, and we don't want anybody to experience anything harmful to happen while we're out campaigning, which is part of the process. Things happen, right? And you have to learn how to cope with that in a good way. In a good way, I mean a way that I don't carry it. Personally, I actually went to Wabigoon powwow, and that was very healing for me.
Seymour says she reached out to Kenora Conservative candidate Eric Melillo shortly after it happened to be in solidarity on the issue. In a statement, Melillo says he was horrified to hear of this incident and that no one should be subjected to this kind of behavior. Liberal candidate David Bruno called the incident shocking and appalling, adding that it is un-Canadian. And Green candidate Remy Rowe says this form of behavior should never be tolerated within a just society. This week, we're profiling the candidates vying for the Thunder Bay Rainy River seat. Liberal incumbent Marcus Pulowski says he has more to do in the House of Commons and hopes to earn enough votes to continue that work. Ryan Benazzo has more.
It's a different type of campaign for Liberal Marcus Pawlowski the second time around, not just because of the global pandemic, but because he's now the incumbent in Thunder Bay Rainy River. The former ER doctor says he's thoroughly enjoyed his first 2 years in Parliament, and he has unfinished business to attend to within the riding and well beyond its borders.
Our efforts to help the Afghan interpreters and other Afghans who are trying to flee from the Taliban, which is something I started actually 2 years ago, and really the results of that work have only come to fruition recently with our government becoming a lot more involved in dealing with this process.
Pawlowski took the riding in 2019 by more than 2,300 votes. He says the broad knowledge he's gained since then makes him the best choice to continue to represent the riding going forward.
Practically any topic under the sun may fall on your desk as being the Member of Parliament. So you got to be interested in a whole bunch of things. 2, you have to have a certain intellectual rigor to actually pursue those things and figure them out. For example, like, what's the problem with Bombardier? Why can't we get the contracts?
Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
The NDP's Samjuan is one of 2 people back on the ballot for a second time. She's hoping to turn the riding orange once again after a 6-year gap since John Rafferty held the seat for the New Democrats. Corey Nordstrom has that candidate profile.
Samjuan garnered just under 30% of the votes in the 2019 election. The NDP candidate for Thunder Bay Rainy River is strongly against this election in what she calls a power grab by Justin Trudeau. Though Juan did plan on running again in the natural election cycle in 2023.
If they want me to have a shot at the job now, I'm here for it, and I'm here for the people, making sure they know that I'm still here to give them voice, to represent the North, and not just have a whole bunch of empty promises and not show up.
Juan has stayed active in the community as much as she can through the pandemic in an effort to relay local voices to party members in the House of Commons.
It's really about right across Canada having that input of what's going on, feet on the ground. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Even for 2 years, we didn't get out into the communities, but we still had connections. And that to me is important to provide that information, whether I'm an MP or not.
As she looks to improve upon her third-place finish from 2019, she knows that what voters want will need to remain at the forefront of her thought process. With a riding that spans almost 40,000 square kilometers, she wants those in government to remember that rural voices matter just as much as those in cities.
Things I think that I want to ensure is that the North has a voice.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Adelina Pekia is a first-time candidate for the Conservative Party. The ordained reverend is hoping her values will help propel her to victory in a riding that typically leans Liberal or NDP. Once again, here's Corey Nordstrom.
As a first-time candidate in the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding, Conservative Adelina Pekia is confident that she can change the voting habits of locals and also bring change to Ottawa.
I've been hearing a lot of things about housing costs, loss of jobs, the economy. So I would like to see renewal, growth, and the implementation of the Disability Act, where we will be doubling the benefits for those on disabilities.
Born in Italy and raised in Fort William, Pekia believes her core values will separate her from other candidates.
I care and I'm compassionate. I believe in equity, equality, and I love Thunder Bay, Rainy River. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. I know the needs of this area.
The professional life of Pekia has been as a reverend across Canada, including a stop in Marathon. Her time in the North Shore town showed the challenges that are being faced in many smaller municipalities.
And there's a lot of places in Thunder Bay, Rainy River riding where businesses are shutting down and a lot of factories are shutting down. And so people are worried about their jobs.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
And coming up after the break, we'll take a look at more candidates in the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding. Welcome back. We'll continue our look now at the candidates vying for the Thunder Bay Rainy River seat with a profile of the Green Party's Tracy McKinnon. Mitchell Ringos has more.
Green Party candidate Tracy McKinnon has made Thunder Bay her home, moving here 10 years ago after living on both coasts of Canada and southern Ontario. McKinnon ran for city council in the 2018 municipal election, collecting over 3,000 votes, and she's hoping for similar support this time. McKinnon says now that she's a federal candidate, she's really getting the chance to be heard.
When I have Amanda supporting me and, of course, the Green team, however, we need, it could be the pandemic too, but I just feel like I've been kind of left out. So yesterday at the debate with the English debate with the Thunder Bay Superior North candidates, I finally had a seat at that table, which has been long overdue.
McKinnon is an anti-poverty advocate, saying a lot of the Thunder Bay community is struggling, as she knows the struggles of poverty firsthand, battling through it herself. McKinnon is also very close to the Indigenous community, going to many of their events, including the Suicide Prevention Walk in Thunder Bay.
I don't have a law degree, I don't have a medical degree, I'm not a teacher yet like some or a painter, but what I am is someone with lived experience. That's how I relate to my Indigenous brothers and sisters. I proudly wear my skirt and my mask with my friends and community members. And
Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
And finally, we've got a look at Alan Abbott, who was representing the People's Party of Canada in Thunder Bay Rainy River. In 2019, the PPC garnered 730 votes in the riding. Abbott is the new candidate, and he's looking to make the party stand out against his opponents and rank higher in the standings. He feels the country has gone astray and wants to see Canada back the way it was 30 years ago. Abbott says the PPC is the only party standing up for the rights and freedoms of Canadians.
That is insane in itself. That should not be the case. Our free speech is at jeopardy. We have out of control spending by a government that's addicted to opium. Our money has been thrown away and our economy is being demolished in front of our eyes. And the only party that's willing to stand up and say enough's enough is the People's Party. I read through the whole platform and I agreed with every item on it because it was reasonable, rational, and logical, whereas all the others, virtual signaling at best.
A bizarre help wanted ad posted by an Atikokan business has the region's medical officer of health disappointed and concerned for the health and safety of employees. The job ad issued by Sept River Canoes, a canoe and paddle manufacturer in Atikokan, says it's looking for 2 full and part-time positions to start in October. However, the ad stresses it will only be considering applicants who have not received a COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Kit Young-hoon says she's disappointed to see the ad, noting a large social group like a workplace that is unvaccinated is considered a high-risk situation.
They are at increased risk of having an outbreak of COVID-19. So I think that is very disappointing that such a business would choose to do that, because I think that could potentially be harmful to their employees and the owners and the operators.
TBT News reached out to the Atikokan Employment Center, which posted a version of the ad online, but the agency was unable to comment, citing confidentiality. The co-owner of Sept River Canoes, Keith Robinson, did not respond to requests for comments. Investigations are underway at the Fort Francis jail following the death of an inmate last weekend. Paramedics were called to the facility last Saturday night, according to the Ministry of the Solicitor General, after the individual was found in medical distress. The person then died en route to a nearby hospital. The Office of the Chief Coroner and the Ministry are each conducting investigations into the death. The OPP could also launch its own investigation if the death is determined to have been the result of a criminal act. If the death is ruled to be a result of anything other than natural causes, an inquest will be held as well. Northwest Region OPP have announced a major drug bust following a 4-month-long investigation into cocaine distribution network involving 5 different communities. Nearly 2 kilograms of cocaine and other illicit drugs were seized, along with 6 vehicles and more than $70,000 in cash. 14 people are facing drug trafficking charges, and 10 of them are from Thunder Bay and 4 are from the Dryden area. The OPP says operation began in May and involved numerous police units with help from Thunder Bay Police, Dryden Police, and NAPS. The drug network also stretched to Greenstone, Sioux Lookout, and Fort Francis. The 14 accused will appear in court over the next month. And coming up, we'll have details on a new Elders Lodge in Red Lake. The OPP issued a warning Friday about the recent increase in drug overdoses in the Northwest region. Concerns have been raised that there could be a potential batch of fatal street drugs circulating in the area. So far this year, there have been 10 fatal overdoses in the OPP's coverage area, as well as 73 non-fatal overdoses where emergency responders or the public administered naloxone. OPP are warning anyone selling opioids that if someone dies, the seller can face charges of manslaughter or criminal negligence causing death. It's a symptom of systemic racism when elders and First Nations are forced to leave their communities to live in larger city centers due to the lack of accessible housing. But the Chief and Council of the Red Rock Indian Band, through guidance from community members, have implemented a solution to that issue. And late last month, they cut the ribbon on a brand new 6-unit Elders Lodge. Adam Riley reports.
And with a quick snip of a ribbon, 6 new housing opportunities opened up for elders of the Red Rock Indian Band. The project has taken 18 months to complete due to delays related to COVID-19, but Chief Marcus Hardy is happy nonetheless to have this new facility with modern amenities now open.
It's amazing. It's been a community-driven event since day one. They've been talking about it, the community's been talking about it for years. And finally, we pulled the pin and got it done. It's needed. We can't wait for people to start moving in and get some elders back to the community.
While there are many other projects that are underway in the community, Hardy says he personally felt that this one took top priority.
We want to take care of our elders. They took care of us throughout their whole life, and now it's our turn to give back, to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they have family around.
Hardy says he is thankful to the engineers and the company tasked with constructing the lodge, which offers 6 single-bedroom apartments, laundry facilities, and a common area for their professionalism and accommodating during the pandemic. Lead designer Sasha Vayu says the lodge stands in stark contrast to other housing units in the community.
A lot of it's just single-family units, so it was a unique opportunity presented to do a sixplex like this, the common space. Yeah, it was interesting. We originally had a larger plan, but it got taken back a little bit just because of funds.
Monty Romeo is the owner of B&L Contracting who built the lodge. He says the lodge in Lake Helen could be used as a blueprint for other First Nations who want to bring accessible housing to their communities.
It's got a very homey feeling. It's not so commercial, and it doesn't have a dungy feeling or anything like that. It's very warm, very light for the elder community, very accessible everywhere. Parking and everything one level. All the elders are in one place. It's a lot easier for nursing and such like that. They could get it done a lot quicker and a lot more efficient.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
A series of meetings were held this past week to decide the future for the Northern Lake Superior Métis. The members have the opportunity to find their own standing within the provincial organization or declare autonomy. Dozens packed into Thunder Bay's Moose Hall, led by local leaders as well as reps from the Métis Nation of Ontario. The point of discussion was a path forward with a question and answer period regarding how it may look. The organization has developed 3 options to take. The first, and one that's recommended, is to work with the Métis Nation of Ontario to create a path to self-government. The second would see regional autonomy of the group, and the last simply maintaining the status quo. Chair Darren Brown says it's a historic time to have the chance to work towards self-government.
Complex issues. Harvesting is a big one for Northwestern Ontario. Fishing, hunting. We want to decide as a region and work with the government of Ontario to set harvesting practices that are practical for the region as well as environmentally sustaining, and that takes in the needs of the region, not just the needs of the province.
Things like child and family services, aging at home for seniors, and other types of programs and services, which is on top of that agreement, but it's not part of the self-government agreement itself. It's the core self-government, the citizenship, leadership selection, and internal operations is what the main focus is.
The Northern Lake Superior Métis also held meetings in Geraldton on Wednesday night and Marathon on Thursday as they get input towards a decision. A vote on the matter will take place sometime in the near future. Resolute's Ignis sawmill has been back in business for about 7 months, and company brass say profits from the pandemic should keep the operation running for the foreseeable future. The sawmill in Ignis was shuttered for a 2-year period before restarting this February. Resolute President Remy Ladone says having the mill up and running allows the company to better manage the fiber flow in the province between their 3 sawmills, making Resolute more competitive as a whole.
From an economic perspective, we're very bullish on long-term demand trends for lumber. So while prices are low today, we think that over the next several years, the conditions are such that prices are going to be above average for many years to come. And that means that we should be able to be profitable and very competitive in all of our sawmills in Northwestern Ontario, including Ignis.
The company cleared about $250 million in debt throughout the pandemic due to high lumber prices. And that wraps up this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.